What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of What is Health, and today is stress stalling your weight loss. Alright guys, so as we said at the beginning of the video, that's what the topic's going to be circled around. Is stress causing your weight stalls? Is it causing health limitations? Is it causing you issues? And I think what you're going to find by the end of this video is that there's going to need to be some areas in your life where you don't have proper stress life management that you're going to need to dig into and properly address. So let's kind of get into this. So what is stress? Stress is a response elicited by your body to environments that it does not like, environments it wants to get away from. It could be emotional, it could be mental, it could be physical. Understand though, that our body only sees a tiger. That's going to be important for later. Our body only sees a tiger. It cannot differentiate between emotional and physical stress. It just sees stress. It sees this big tiger that it needs to scurry away from, okay? So let's kind of look at this. How does our body respond to stress? What is the stress response? What our body does is it releases something called adrenaline. It also releases something called cortisol. These things are our stress hormones. They give us really quick awareness. They allow us to get through hard times. And they do this by being fueled by glucose. Cortisol will raise blood sugar. It has a very, very interesting relationship with our pancreas. And so blood sugar will rise to give us that quick energy we need to get through that hard time. And so that's your body's survival response. Right before someone hunts, back in the plains, our ancestors, they would get a cortisol spike. It would be stressful. They would be hungry. They would want food. And so their body would release cortisol. It would raise blood sugar and they'd be able to explode and go get that animal. And so we have to see that stress responses aren't unhealthy. The abuse of the stress response is what is unhealthy. And the fact of the matter is that in our society today, we are the most stressful we have ever been, especially with this COVID thing. It's all this stuff going on. Our bodies, our environments are super, super stressed out. We wake up, we're worried about our weight, we're worried about our goals, we're worried about our families, we're worried about our money, we're worried about all these things. And your body's already in a stressful state when it wakes up. And so now you're really, really stressed out. So what I want to do is I want to kind of take you through a day of someone that has chronic stress. And I want to kind of play by play what goes on. And then hopefully by the end you see the big picture. So this person wakes up. They wake up, their body releases cortisol to get them out of bed. Waking up is a stressful environment for your body because it has to start all the engines, okay, if you will. Okay, so this is called the dawning effect. That's why when you wake up, you tend to have higher blood sugar than in other times of the day because your body's releasing cortisol and it's raising blood sugar to get you that quick energy to get you out of bed. So now you're up, okay? And normally, the ancestors would wake up and go relax. What do you do now? You grab a cup of coffee, which is full of caffeine. This caffeine is also going to stimulate cortisol. It's going to raise that blood sugar again. And then you go off to work. And work's stressful. So you literally went from waking up to caffeine to stressful job. And so boom, boom, boom. Your body is just chronically pumping out cortisol. Constantly pumping out cortisol. And then you get to lunch. And lunch is really 30 minutes. And you have meetings. And you have all these papers that you need to fill out and all this stuff. And so you rush through lunch, you scarf it down, you probably don't even look at your food. You just know that it's something you need, so you do it habitually, you eat it, and then you will go right back to your job. So really, you don't even really have a break. You have 8 hours of just complete stress. Your cortisol streaming a little bit the entire time, blood sugar slightly elevated the entire time, and then you get off work and then you go to your house and you think of all the things you have to get done, like sweeping the floor and doing the dishes and all these chores, and you overwhelm yourself with those thoughts and that stresses you out. And then if you have kids, it's stress on top of that. And so cortisols just keep releasing because the tiger is still there. And then you go to the gym to relieve the mental stress, but to your body, it's a physical stress. So you still release cortisol and raise blood sugar to deal with the workout. And so more cortisol. And then when you go to bed, you like to watch a movie up until about the time your eyes get tired, which if it's an emotional movie or a dramatic movie, your body sees that as stress, it emotionally bothers you, you're going to release a little bit of cortisol. And then you turn off the TV, and because the blue light got with you and it didn't give your body time to get synchronized with darkness, so melatonin had a hard time being produced, now you go to bed and your body's not going to sleep very well. And so cortisol is elevated even more to get you out of bed the next day because you didn't get a good night's sleep. And then the cycle starts all over again. Okay? Do you see how that can be an issue? Now, let's look at what this can do to our bodies. What I want you to understand is that this doesn't mean that calories don't matter or anything like that. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at, though, is that stress affects our ability to oxidize fat. It affects our abilities to lose weight in general, not just fat, but water retention, inflammation. So let's look at this. If you're having really bad adrenal fatigue from elevated cortisol, you're going to have a hard time sleeping. It's going to get in the way of your body's ability to recover. Where it oxidizes fat for muscle healing, you're going to have a hard time releasing fluids and flushing out inflammation and all that water that you build up over the day. It's just going to relapse into the next day. Okay, so that's one thing. So just sleep in general, it just gets completely crushed by chronic stress. And then we go into the day-to-day. So understand that, like, one, in general, people tend to eat more when they're chronically stressed because your blood sugar regulation is so off. Remember, we talked about it in that blood sugar video about that HbA axis, and once it gets thrown off, there's a lot of issues. So if the adrenals are fatigued and you're constantly pumping out cortisol, you're constantly going to want food. You're going to constantly want to stabilize that blood sugar. It's your body's natural thing. And then if you're not getting enough sleep, it makes you even more hungry. So people tend to eat more when they're chronically stressed just due to the nature of the environment that your body's in at the time, okay? So from those two standpoints, it can affect weight loss and fat loss and your ability to flush out excess water and things that you don't need. Now, here's another way that it affects things. It inhibits the production of sex hormones. That's why when you chronically diet, which is a stressful environment, you see sex hormones go way down. It's because your body will choose getting away from the tiger over making children. And so what it will do is it will strip the building blocks for progesterone and testosterone and estradiol, and it will move it over to cortisol. So cortisol can be made to get you out of that environment. And so we see is low libido. And then, of course, with low sex hormones, we see low muscle mass, low bone density, and all of that can accumulate to a large chunk of calories that you are no longer burning because all that stuff is down-regulated to deal with the cortisol. And the cortisol doesn't need your fat that you're eating in your diet or the fat on your body. It's going to keep making sugar. It's going to keep increasing blood sugar, whether it has to strip that from wherever. It's going to. It might strip it from aminos. In fact, I'm not a doctor, but there's a correlation between chronic stress and arthritis because your body will strip the amino acids and nutrients from your joints to make cortisol. And so we see a lot of inflammation and a lot of lack of nutrients in the joints. And so we deal with these arthritis-like pains, which is why dealing with chronic stress and getting on a low-carb diet can really help with that. But I don't want to digress. The point is that chronic stress can inhibit you in that way as well. So if we look at it, chronic stress inhibits sleep, it inhibits fat oxidation, it inhibits sex hormone production, it can trigger a lot of inflammation, right? And it dysregulates hunger. And so we see like all these things that come from stress. So the final answer is yes. Chronic stress can inhibit weight loss, it can inhibit health, it can inhibit all kinds of things. So what can you do? Great question. So the first thing that you can do really is to go for walks. Walks stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your very rested state, very, very well. It's a great way. I would say do one in the morning after you wake up before you have your coffee, and then do one for lunch and then or before you eat, and then do one when you get home from work. And having those 15 to 20 minutes in between those stressful environments where you completely disconnect, it sounds simple, it sounds like it's not enough, but it is. It can be a huge game changer in your ability to regulate your stress better. The second thing I would say is obviously getting off of refined sugars. This is going to help your body regulate your HbA axis better. And so I'm not saying go keto, I'm not saying go paleo, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying stick to whole foods. Just stick to whole foods. You're going to have a much better chance of fighting this thing. Of course, the lower carbs, the better when it comes to blood sugar regulation, but you know, everybody's a bio-individual, and I want you to stick with that. And then, of course, I think the biggest one, the third thing, is proper sleep. I would have a proper sleep routine. So about an hour before you go to bed, I would turn off all screens, and I would maybe take a bath. I have clients, I make them take bubble baths and stuff. Like, I'll be like, hey, listen, like, I don't know what time it is where you live, but go take a bath. Go sit in the bath for an hour. Take care of yourself. Put yourself in a state of relaxation and comfort. And it sounds odd and it sounds like you don't have time for it, but if you can prioritize it and get it done, it can make a huge, huge difference. So if you're someone that, you're up till 10 putting the kids to bed, so the last from 10 to 11 you watch TV because it's your time, how about you use your time for something more productive? Instead of watching the TV during that time, go take a bath, go take a hot shower, go take an Epsom salt bath, go relax, do your nails, whatever you want to do, but create a relaxing environment so that you can properly get ready for bed. The screens are off, so it's nighttime, your body starts producing melatonin and GABA, those things that you need to shut your brain off so you can get a well night's rest. All right, guys, so that's it for this video. I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps you. I hope if you've been stalling in your weight loss or you just don't feel optimal, that this kind of puts some light bulbs off in your head. If you have any questions or any comments, you want me to touch on anything in particular, put it in the comments below. I love you guys. Till next time.